August the 16th, 2023. Guys, it is another beautiful day here in central Mississippi. Just a hair warm, not complaining at all. We could use a little rain. We'll take it when it gets here. But it is now 2:52 p.m. Central Time in central Mississippi. The outside temperature, Fahrenheit, is 89. It feels like 93. Again, compared to 122 and 132 and the heat indices that we have been getting, it's been a great day. We were able to get a few things done outside that we'd been having to put off simply because it was too hot. But what you're looking at in this wide Atlantic view, you got a couple of storms. One is Tropical Storm Hillary right there, and we've got actually two storms here. Now, Hillary is already a tropical storm. This one right here, it has a 40% chance of development now. Looks like it's forming all the characteristics that it needs as far as starting some rotation, starting some wrap up of the center of circulation, and you got another storm south of it. We're going to take a look at that, and we're going to look at the latest models, guys, and where the high pressure is going to send this. And you can see that the Saharan dust layer does not seem as thick as it has been. And you're seeing the sunset over the African nation. Now, one note on that, I've been keeping up with what's going on there in Russia and Ukraine. Just can't talk much about it, but what was happening was France, the UK, and the US were trying to get the Western nations that you're seeing on the African coast to go against the coup that was in Niger. And it looked like they were going to do it. The U.S. gave them the okay to come in. It's kind of like their NATO Economic Commission. But today they announced that they would not interfere. It looks like they're completely casting off the colonizers. Now, with sanctions on Russia, Europe is already in trouble with oil and natural gas. And so what's coming out of Africa now more than likely will be shut down. They are basically told them to get out. Now, back to this. I just wanted to mention that the other African nations now are saying, no, we will not participate with the U.S., France, and the U.K. I think they're going to become the great nation that they've always wanted to be. We'll just have to see. But again, we've got two storms here, and we've got a system that could form in the Gulf of Mexico. Let's take a look at the models and the timing, but first I want to change the satellite imaging just for a second. Now, this is called the NT microphysics, and it allows us to look through the nighttime. Now, the lighter pink across the Atlantic, that is the Saharan sand layer. But notice Tropical Storm Hillary here and the tropical characteristics surrounding it. And now look at this system. You're already starting to see rotation. Again, it was getting night. We couldn't see down in there good. But with this one we can. We got a second storm out in the Atlantic in front of it. Now, zooming in on that particular storm, again, notice the rotation. It's hard to tell if it's all the way to the surface, but I think it is. But your upper storms are starting to wrap around it. And this thing is large already. These two may move up into the northern Atlantic, but again, it's going to be determined by the high pressure. Let's take a look at those models. Now, let's take a look at this. The chances of strengthening on these two storms have went up. One was 20%, one was 30%. Here we have a 40% chance of formation. This is the large one. Out in front of it's a smaller storm, but it has a 50% chance of development. Now, I'll read that. It says, as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, that would have been 1 hour ago, it says, disorganized showers and thunderstorms located over the central tropical Atlantic are associated with an elongated trough of low pressure centered about 750 miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of the system, with a tropical depression could form during the next several days while moving towards the west or west-northwest at about 10 miles per hour. That is this storm. Now, if we go back and look at the second one, here, it's got a 40% chance of development, but guys, it's already large. And it says a tropical wave near the Cabo Verde Islands is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Now, to me, they looked a lot more organized than that. The system is forecast to move towards the northwest at about 15 miles per hour, with an area of low pressure expected to form in a day or so just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Further development of the low is possible, and a tropical depression could form over the weekend before environmental conditions become unfavorable next week. Again, this thing is moving north. It's going to become getting into cooler water. Also, it's going to be diving deeper into the Saharan dust layer. Just to point out also, both of these are now parallel. One was going to move a little further west. This was going to kind of go on its path, but both of these now are moving northwestward. Into the Gulf, you've got a 20% chance of cyclone formation in 7 days. Western Gulf of Mexico, a broad area of low pressure, could form in the central or western Gulf of Mexico by the beginning of next week. That would put it, today's the 16th, so you would be around the 21st, guys, 20th, 21st, we start to see something develop in the Gulf itself. It's a slow development of the system is possible thereafter as it moves westward and approaches the western Gulf of Mexico coastline by the middle of next week. So that would be 7 days away, say next Tuesday or next Wednesday. Now that would be the 23rd as far as where it would be, when it would be coming ashore. Now what's going to be critical, they've got a wide area here of where it could form, and it could be anywhere inside this yellow circle. Now what would be the determining factor is we've got a high pressure area, guys, that is setting here. It's also back into this area, but if on the 22nd, 23rd, we're going to look at that model. If this starts to go away and you start to see the low pressure form in this area over the southern Gulf states, then this thing could move north very easily. So remember that 22nd, 23rd as far as when it's forming or coming ashore, but by the weekend, in the first part of the week, they could see the development starting. And they're talking about a system that's going to move through southern Florida with a lot of moisture in it and push into the Gulf of Mexico. They're not saying this will become a strong storm yet, but that it could bring Texas and part of Mexico, possibly part of Louisiana, some very much needed rain. And I know you guys need it out there. I see your comments. Now let's take a look at the models and where that high pressure will set up. But remember, starting at the beginning of the week, the formation, and then the 22nd or 23rd coming ashore somewhere. Now this is the Canadian model. Notice your timestamp at the bottom right, today the 16th. As we play it forward, I'll stop it on the 22nd, and you're going to see that this large area of high pressure in the dark orange going into the lighter oranges is going to shift out of the way. Now the high pressure system here that we're seeing today is a lot better than it's been, but it looks like, guys, by then you're going to be getting a lot of heat up into the northeast. But I will stop it there. Notice the two storms here will take advantage starting around the 22nd of a harder turn to the north as this high pressure moves out of the way. Let me play this forward. There we go. There's the 18th. You see your systems in the Atlantic. Stop it here. Now in the Gulf, you already have this system that they're talking about forming today. That's the 21st. Now the high pressure system is still over the U.S. along the Gulf Coast right there. They don't like the orange areas, but so this one is, by this model, which they can change, will push into the border around Mexico and Texas. Let's step this forward. They're 21st. Notice that the high pressure still over. It's starting to break apart. The orange is moving up. It's starting to turn yellow. They can deal with that a lot better, these storms can. It's a lower pressure. Keep going. You can see it move into the Texas coastline. Here's where it becomes important. We're in the 22nd. The high pressure is moving into the North Atlantic, and both of these storms are going to follow it. This one's already getting powerful by that day. Again, that would be, what, Monday or Tuesday the 22nd? Let's see. That would be, let me look real quickly, that will be next Tuesday, excuse me. Now, As this moves away, that's going to also pull the yellow sections here, which is still high pressure, but it's going to even get lower than that into the green. And there's going to be systems forming in the Caribbean. Watch what happens, guys. Just step it forward. Here's the 23rd. Notice the storms in the Atlantic are taking advantage of that high pressure system, moving northward. And watch what's happening in the Caribbean to your left. There's going to be two systems form, and the high pressure is continuing to move north. These storms at this point look like they would be pulled into this area. We're going to step it forward. This is the 25th. Now, as we continue, watch the Gulf of Mexico. Actually, there's going to be two storm systems, and the high pressure is still slightly over the Gulf Coast states. Watch it, though. Going into the 25th, 26th, all of the pressure, all the yellow, all the oranges are out of the way. So we got this system here that in the Bay of Campeche, two systems are going to push into the Bay of Campeche and into the Gulf. But because this has moved north, it's going to allow everything now to start turning now north. And what you're going to see, guys, here is this system right there. This is the one we got to watch. I kind of regret talking about Hurricane Sally now when we see this. Of course, it's going to change. On the 26th, it's now in the Florida Straits, as far as the center, and it is strengthening, getting this darker blue. And you can see at the bottom line here, here's your pressure millibars. 1016 is the dividing line between the yellow and the orange, and 1012 is where you get into much lower pressure, and that's where you're reading the millibars of pressure. And you can see we're getting into the blues here in the 900s. So here we're basically off the southern or the southwestern tip of the Tortugas, and if we step it forward, I think we've got a couple more times. Well, that was the last time stamp. Let's go back one. We're going to the 26th. See where this one's at? We know that will change, but it looks like these two will turn north into the Atlantic. They may follow this up into the very northeast coastline. We'll keep an eye on it. But this right here, guys, could be the one we really have to pay attention to. Now let's look at NavGem. This is the Navy model. The high pressure's over Atlantic in the orange. You can see the systems forming here. You'll watch development move into the Caribbean itself. You'll also see that the high pressure area receding north is starting to match in both the Canadian and the U.S. Navy model NavGem. And that's because every year we've seen those two models get closer and closer until they finally come very close together, especially at landfall or wherever the storms are going. But let's play this forward today, the 16th. It doesn't go quite as far in time, but let's play it. Here's your two storms, but watch what happens coming off of Africa. A third and more powerful storm here. It only goes up into the 24th. And here's these two. Here's the next one. It's formed by the time it's over the Cabo Verde Islands. Now, it doesn't go far enough to see a lot of development, but you can see it beginning here, right there. But you do see that the high pressure area is out of the way. And notice where the yellow lines are when this thing stops, right here. And it can take that pressure. Again, if you stop this, you'll see at 1016 millibars, that's where we go into much lower pressure, and then the green starts at 1012 millibars here. And that's where it's kind of a free fall for these things to start turning to the north. Their natural counterclockwise rotation wants them to move north. That's why you'll see them get very close to the shoreline in the Gulf and then make a hard right into Florida like Hurricane Michael did. And so we're setting up for another possible situation like Sally. I say that because we have not had any systems to speak of to take any temperatures down in the Gulf of Mexico. The Bay of Campeche, that small system may help that's out in front of it, but I don't think it's going to do much to this one because it's going to turn up into the warmer waters of the Florida Straits and head right into the Gulf itself. And we've seen some very warm water there. So pay attention to it, guys. We're going to watch it. The fires are breaking out a little stronger up in the northwest, guys. We're starting to see them not only there in Oregon, but in Washington State, Vancouver Island now, and the smoke is moving down and through the Montana area. we've seen it thicker, but that dry system that's up there with the heat is really going to take a toll on that area. And Vancouver Island is heavy timbers for us. Cedar, cypress, I think, things like that, and the big cedars grow there. But again, we talked about the fire situation there. The guys that do the logging have to have the temperature and humidity meters with them, and they have to shut down when it reaches a certain point where anything, even the spark from a chainsaw, guys, would start a fire. And now you've got one right in the central section of Vancouver Island, just south of that big, or possibly in the southern section of that large national park, right in the center of it. But guys, again, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.